All right. Welcome back to the PULL BMX podcast. We got a little mid-season report going on. We had a killer start to the season, 4 races down on the USA BMX Pro Series. International racing is kicked off officially with 2 weekends over in Europe. It's been a great 2025 so far. A lot of exciting moments, a lot of, heartbreaking moments as well. So it's awesome to see that BMX is entertaining and keeping up with the prowess that it has for the past 4 years leading up to the past Olympic cycle. So we got our man Connor Fields fresh off the mic from a couple weeks ago. Usually on the mic, I'm behind the camera, so now we're just talking, kind of chopping it up and seeing what Connor thought about the beginning of the season. So Connor, what'd you think of the start of 2025?
What a broad question. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. Being that it's the year after the Olympics, it's always a little bit of a unique year for the pros. And by the pros, I mean there's kind of 2 buckets of riders. There's the riders that either went to the Olympics or made an Olympic run and came up short. And then the second bucket is, the ones that either hope to go there in the future, right, or have made the decision that they're not really worried about the Olympics at all. Now, for the riders that went to the Olympics and are coming off of an Olympic run, it is emotionally exhausting to go through the couple-year qualification and then do it. And then the year after the Olympics, so 2025, it's almost a little bit of like a reset year because there's no Olympic points, there's nothing going on. You can kind of relax a little bit more and enjoy it. I always enjoyed the year after the Olympics. It was always a little bit of fun getting back to the roots for me. But with that being said, the riders that didn't get the results that they wanted come in pissed off, and it gives them a little bit of extra motivation. But no, it's been great. I think it's been, on the men's side, you've got your big 3 that you've had for a few years with Cam, and Isaac. And they're, Cam Wood and Isaac are doing what they're expected. Cam Larson has been off a little bit. He has not been quite at the same level as he's been. But then there's been some surprises that have jumped in. Josh Jolly has been fantastic. Matteo Carmona got a win. I mean, there's been a few surprises, which is great because it's not just the big 3. It means there's more people in the mix. On the women's side, we spoke earlier before the season. You and I did, like, who's going to step up with the void that Elise has left, right? She won 5,000 races in the last 10 years. Who's going to win those races? And Molly Simpson has planted her flag, oh, Canada, here we are, we're ready to go. So it's been great kickoff to the season. The future class has been exciting. I think that you're going to see the fruits of that in the coming years. It's going to help those riders develop and make the transition smoother into the pro class. But yeah, it's been great. And, as our boy E says, the skillet is just now getting hot. It's going to get even better on this back half.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to the women's pro class, I mean, Molly Simpson has really stepped up her game. She was on the verge for, I think, 2-3 years. Last year, I think she made a really hard charge, especially making the Olympic team, being in that Olympic final. She had a great year last year, but something seems different for 2025. A podium behind Saya to kick off the year in Rock Hill. And then after Rock Hill, I mean, it's been a stretch of wins up until spring where she was racing internationally, and Delaney took over and got 2 of her wins. The points right now for the women's, it's Molly, Lauren Reynolds, and Delaney Vaughn. So Molly with those 6 wins, Lauren Reynolds with 0 wins, but 5 podiums as her specialty always. And then Delaney Vaughn with 2 podiums. So 4 and 5, slower start than what we thought. Similar to Cam Larson on that effect, still landing on the top 3 of the standings. But those 3 women they've been either battling with Elise or just behind Elise for so many years. And now that, Elise is coming on the late stages of her pregnancy and probably popping out a kid pretty soon, it's cool to see them get that spotlight, but also excel in that spotlight. Lauren Reynolds, I mean, in Pappendahl, she was just a hair close to a podium just behind Molly. So it shows that those women are battling, neck and neck, tire to tire all the way through this season.
For sure. Breaking them down individually, we'll start with Molly. She's on top of the points. There is a skill to be developed of winning, of kind of pulling the trigger and getting the job done. It is actually harder, in my opinion, and I think most pros will agree with me. When you're the fastest rider and you should win, and basically you just got to not screw up and you win, that's hard. When you're in a really competitive position and everybody's pretty even, you just go. You don't have to think. You just go. And so for Molly, I think that she has been developing the skill of winning, of getting in the gate in lane number one, knowing you're the one seed, knowing you're the fastest, knowing that anything short of a win is going to be viewed as coming up short. And she's been getting better at that. I think with her winning a World Cup and beating Saya in France, I think that's going to do some extra bonus points for her confidence, because like you mentioned, the only races she didn't win this year were the ones that Saya was in. Yeah. And so for her to kind of go and do that, it's just going to continue her belief in herself. I think that Molly has the skill, the talent, and the physical ability to dominate this class for the next few years the way Elise did. And so I think that she's, going to continue down that pathway. And I think overwhelmingly she's the favorite, right? But we still line up the race because it's BMX and anything can happen. Yeah. Moving down to Lauren. I'm so impressed by Lauren. I'm younger than Lauren, and I'm retired as heck. And the idea of jumping on the big hill in Poppendal, I'm not about that life anymore. So mad respect to her for continuing to not just do it, but to excel. And to do that, that means that she's learning, growing, pushing herself, finding weak points, continuing to get better. I raced a World Cup with Lauren in 2009.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these kids listening to this podcast weren't even born yet, right? So mad respect for her. But what I will say is if you're a podium killer and you spend your whole year getting second, third, fourth, you will end the season in second, third, or fourth. To win a championship, it doesn't matter whether it's the UCI series, the USA BMX, doesn't matter what it is. To win a championship, you have to win races. And so if Lauren wants to kind of make that leap from being, there's my dog, there's Mocha. If she wants to make that leap from second, third, fourth in the championship to winning a title, she has to turn those into wins throughout the season. Speaking of wins, Delaney got a couple in Albuquerque. At the end of the day, the points are the points. Doesn't matter who's lined up. A win's a win. It doesn't matter who's at the races, who's not. And it doesn't matter, who hit the gate. It doesn't matter who made a mistake. A win's a win. And so I think for Delaney, she's got 2 on the board. There's 10 races left. So she strings together a few more and she goes into Tulsa with a shot, and she's won the Grands before. So I think she is still definitely in this mix.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you absolutely have to grab those wins. Molly's got 4 wins. Delaney's got 2. Lauren's still hunting for that first one of the season. But to be in the contention, you need some podiums also. In the top 4, on the very bottom of that is Carly Kane. Not too far back in the points, 380 compared to Molly Simpson's 550. 1 podium at the beginning of the year, but then 3 fourths and a 5th at all of her other races. So that's definitely, she's in the main, she's in the mix, middle of the pack. But as a racer, coming from a racer background, what does it take to make that jump when you're fighting, you're battling? What does it mean to make that jump onto the podium finally?
Yeah, it's one of those things where whether you're going from making mains consistently to podiuming consistently, or you're going from podiuming to winning, it's all about confidence and believing that you can do it. It's a double-edged sword because you don't believe you could do it until you could do it. Right. So it's like you have to unlock that confidence, but how do you unlock that confidence without just doing it? But with that being said, I think Carly is going to have to just step it up a little bit. Like, I think right now she's in the mix, but if everybody gets their best lap out, can she go toe-to-toe and beat Molly? Can she go toe-to-toe and beat Delaney? Right? If everybody has a perfect start and doesn't make a mistake. Right. So I think that as a rider, you want your goal when you're training to be if I execute to 100% of my abilities, I can beat these other riders. Right?
Absolutely.
That's the goal. And
Absolutely.
so I think that she's right there on that bubble where if they're off just a hair, she can capitalize. But I think that she's just going to need to continue to get better. She's been getting better, right? She's trending in the right direction. So she's just going to have to keep that trend going if she wants to kind of make that leap from being a 4 to 8 rider into a top 3 rider.
Absolutely. And the big thing with Carly's riding style and her race style is
she has a good racetrack.
Yeah, very good racecraft, can see a line opening, especially into a turn. We saw that in Rock Hill, in Nashville, and we're gonna see it in Derby City, where she's semi-local. So that's where she trains on a big hill, and then Tulsa also with that big wide open first term. I think we could see a little bit in Minnesota. Don't know how big that turn is from a pro perspective to make that dive down, but we got some tracks that will open up, I think, really cater to Carly's, Delaney's, and then Payton Ridenour, who won back-to-back last year on the Pro Series.
I'm glad you mentioned Payton because I want to make sure that we talk about her. She rode really well over in Europe at the World Cups, gotten a couple of finals. She's been, I hate to say disappointing, right? Like that's not the right word. But I'm sure that when she was looking at the first half of her season, she's not going to mark it down as a success. She didn't meet the goals that she had set out. So, she's won races. She's been in the mix. She was up for the championship against Elise last year. So I'd look for Payton to bring it home strong in the back half of the year.
Absolutely. And, she did earn that sleeve here in Tulsa for the national championships. But when it comes to USA BMX Pro Series races, I think it's been a little lackluster. I think even the fans wanted a little bit more from her. I know a lot of people are behind her and cheering for her. Now that she's on more of a free agent season, they want her to see her do well. So hopefully we see that.
Don't forget what kind of bike she rides, though.
Hey, she rides the Chase. Watch out. Over to the men's side, I think you hit the nail on the head at the beginning of this. Cam Larson, Isaac. Those are the 3. Joris jumped in with Sylvain Andre at Nashville. They locked up some podiums, Joris with the win. But those 3 consistently keep coming back. And I want to say Cam Wood and Isaac have become more consistent. That's something that I kind of had a problem watching them in the years past because it was win or crash. And you never want your favorites or your
together.
Yes, usually together, but they're starting to take off those podiums, take off consistent laps. Cam Wood has 7 podiums, 3 of them being wins. Isaac has 3 podiums, 1 of them being a win.
Before we continue on, let's back this up. So Cam has 7 out of 8 on the box, right?
Yeah.
Then you go to the national championships where that's a win, right? So now he's 8 out of 9 races, and he got 2 out of 4 podiums in the World Cups.
Yep.
I mean, Cam has been a podium machine this year. That's 10 out of 13 out of 13 races this year that he's been on the box. And I do know that at one of the World Cups he got 4th.
Yep. And
I believe in the one podium that he missed in the US, 4th.
4th. Yeah.
And I think that it has been underrated how consistent that he has been. It is one of the stretches. It's a stretch of consistency that's not common. You've seen it with Sam. You'll see it with Maris. You'll see it with Joris. I've had stretches like that. But it's not every year that you have somebody that just ticks him off. He's in the race or she's in the race. Put him on the box. Right. And so I think that, one, I want to give kudos where kudos is earned to Cam for that. But also, what that's done is that's led to him being in a position that he's in right now, which is a huge lead in the points series. Because when you win or podium, not only do you get points for yourself, but you block everybody else.
Exactly.
So now you've got a situation where Isaac has a win and maybe another podium or 2, but he doesn't have all of his scores yet. So every time on the back half of the year that Cam beats Isaac, it's double dipping. He's getting himself points and holding Isaac back.
Exactly.
And, I think at the back half of the year, Cam's pretty much already got his shot going into the grands, with all of his podiums and all that. Isaac's the one who's now put under pressure. Isaac has no margin for error, or Jolly or anybody else who wants to step into this title mix. But huge kudos to Wood for what he put together this first half of the year. And then switch over to Isaac. He has done less races than Cam. He didn't go to Bakersfield. He's only done 6. He got a win at Rock Hill. And I remember learning from Dale Holmes about 100 years ago when I rode for free agent. He said, you want to go for a title, you just need 1 score a weekend. If you get 1 score a weekend, you'll have a shot. So he goes to Rock Hill and he gets a win. Check. And then, he goes to Nashville. And he was kind of going to win. He was winning, and then he got passed, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't get one. He didn't get one there. And then he goes to Albuquerque. He gets on the box. So now it's okay. I got some pressure because I got to get a double dip weekend here on the back half of the year. I got to go. There's only 5 weekends left, but I need 6 scores. So he's going to get a little more pressure now, and that's where Cam can now come in and just if Cam goes 1-1 on a weekend, that holds Isaac down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, when you max out the regular season at 800 and then you're just blocking until the grands, I mean, Cam Wood's at 700 and he only has 3 wins, so he can switch out some of those scores all season long and just battle for that 10 points here, 10 points there. And absolutely, I think I'm honestly surprised that Cam Larson is above Isaac in the standings just from an eyeball test.
But he got those 2 extra scores in Bakersfield. They got a second there, I believe. So he's got more scores. But really, when you're looking at these, there's 2 styles of the point series. There's the World Cups where every round counts, right? Yeah. So when you're looking at it, it doesn't matter what part of the season you're looking at it. It matters because you're not changing any scores. But then with the way the USA BMX format is, you could have 7 scores and then go to the Rock and win, and then vault up the standings. So. Yeah. You can't really take too much stock into the points until you start getting to the end of the year when everybody's got 8 scores. And, right now Cam is, hundreds of points above everybody else. I'm sure that once the Grands comes around, he won't be. So, the riders know that, and they're just going to be trying to click off scores. But, I think Cam has done a good job of putting the pressure on everybody else. And that's Cam Wood. That is, Cam Larson, I don't really know. I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think has changed? Because he was consistent podium. And now he seems to be a little more inconsistent. Now he has podium. He has ridden well, but he's also getting beat by riders we're not used to seeing him get beat by. What do you think changed?
I mean, there's 2 thoughts on my end. One could be that everybody stepped up their game. He stayed consistent, but other people have made that jump, made that level up to where he is maybe, it's a game of centimeters, of millimeters. Maybe those people just gain that extra 3 inches down the 30 foot and it's shuffling him back. So that's one school of thought. The other school of thought is outside of the helmet, life goes on. So whether he's, living life and maybe not, as focused or as I don't want to say dedicated, because we know Cam Larson's dedicated to the sport, but there might be just some of those things that are lacking, or his mind drifts elsewhere. He just released a new tube company, so yeah, so there might be all these different factors, but you never really know until you're in the brain of the rider, right? But
I think both of those are good, but I also think once you get into a bit of a funk, it can be hard to dig yourself out. Yeah. And it could be a situation where the season didn't start off how he wanted it to, and then you're pushing uphill to try to get out of it. Yeah. I think that could be a part of it. But
now in baseball, you gotta switch up your rituals. You gotta change some socks. You gotta put cinnamon in your shoes. You gotta wear different colored gloves, something to shake that mojo.
I mean, Cam's always going back and forth between the CF grips and the answer grips, so maybe he needs to switch back to CF because he's on answer right now. Don't kill me, John Sawyer. The other one that's been, I think, I don't want to use the word relief. Maybe a better way to describe it is that it's been something I'm really excited about. The depth of competition. Yeah. I think this year there's been some surprise there's been some surprises. People coming over, whether it's Simon Marquardt or Matteo Carmona, and committing to the series, but also Josh Jolly. And I've been a fan of Josh Jolly for years. I remember telling Luna years ago. I mean, I got him on my bonus program when he was a first-year junior. I'll never forget seeing that video of him in Rock Hill jump, land, manualing the first jump, and manualing the whole first straight.
Yeah,
and I just remember I saw that. I'm like, you can't teach that. That's bike skill that you're born with, right? And you can teach sprints. You can get stronger in the gym, but you can't teach that level of bike control, the Corbin Sherrod, the Joris today, that level bike control. And so I always expected that Josh would do well. But when Josh showed up here's what I'll say, in Rock Hill, he was competitive, right? And it was impressive.
Yeah.
But then to go to Bakersfield and just destroy everybody, not just once, but to back it up again. That was when it caught a little attention. Like, oh, this kid's for real, right?
Yeah.
But on a point side, that's 2 wins. He's got 25% of his scores. I was surprised that he didn't show up at either Nashville or Albuquerque. And now my thought is that he had his year mapped out of what he was going to do before the year started. He didn't account that he was all of a sudden going to be in the mix for this title, right? But he had already made plans to do the crank works down in New Zealand. He'd already made plans to be in Europe for the World Cups. He'd already made those plans. So he stuck to his plan. I predict that he will be back for the back half of the year to try to capitalize on some wins and get in this mix. But he's got 2 wins. So if he can put together, a couple more wins and then some podiums, now he's going to go into the Grands with a shot. And regardless of who the riders are, when you go in and there's one-on-one, that's a different ball game than when there's 3 or 4 that have a shot. When it's one-on-one, if it's Cam and Isaac, if they kill each other in the quarter, and one of them gets up first and makes it, then that person wins, right? But when there's 3 or 4 that are all mixed up going for it, you just have to race. And usually in that situation, the winner is going to win the title. So I'm excited to see if Josh can continue to stack some points and make this a 3 or even a 4-horse race.
Absolutely. And I think one of the special things about his wins in Bakersfield was sometimes we get, as fans or as BMX crazy people, we get this thought of, oh, certain riders are only good on certain tracks. Some people are big hill specialists in the pro class. Some people are small hill, and there's no in between. You can't be good on both. And then Josh comes in, battles with some of the top dogs around Rock Hill. And, you could dismiss that before Bakersfield. You could dismiss that as say, oh, he won his world championship here. He's a big hill guy. He just did good because it's the track, whatever. And then Bakersfield comes and he gets the whole shot both days on top of the box in the men pro class against still heavy hitters on a completely different style of track. And that's the beauty of the USA BMX series, is so many different styles of track, so many different, strengths being showed, but then Jolly's bike skill and his, natural talent overrides some of that preconceived notion for that. I think you tossed out a couple names, Corbin, Joris being 2. I want to throw Jeff Upshaw's riding style into that. Very relaxed, fun first, effortless kind of style, but then still has the power. And I think that shows in Jeff's vet pro class right now, is he's dominant. He shows up, he's the winner, which is always a good feeling, daunting feeling, like you said before. But 6 wins from Jeff Upshaw, and then Alan Hudson and Nick Long picking up 1 each in Springfield, while Jeff took that weekend off. So what are you seeing from the vet pro class, who are people that you raced, in the heyday?
I watch a main event in vet pro. I'm like, that was like a moto from 2013.
Right.
So, what I will say is it's very similar to the women's class, where Elise left this massive hole where somebody's got to win those races, and Barry winning the last 3 championships and being the dominant rider there. And then now he's having a bit more fun, focused more on the media side of things and taking a step back. somebody's got to win those races. Well, and if you look at the natural fit, Jeff's been getting second for the last few years. Second. So it makes sense that Jeff was ready to go to win those races. Now Nick clipping back in, and as much as Nick loves to tell everybody he doesn't care, he still does more sprints than everybody else. I'd argue he does too many, but he'll tell me he doesn't. It's back and forth. These different training philosophies. But I think that Nick's a World Cup winner. Nick had won, a handful of USA BMX races when he was professional. Like Nick is a top dog, right? Like he's one of those riders who can win or could win when he was pro. You don't lose that.
Yeah.
And, no disrespect, but like just factually, Alan Hudson didn't win any pro races. Corey Reed didn't win any pro races, right? Nick Long won pro races. And so if Nick decides, if he makes the decision that he wants to try to win this championship, I think Nick has the ability to do it. But with that being said, he's only got the back half of the year to really pick it up because Jeff already has 6 wins. All Jeff needs is a couple more podiums, and then he's pretty much maxed out. And I think Jeff's going to be running blocker on the back half of the year to try to take a little pressure off of the Grands. But as a fan, I hope that whether it's Alan or Corey or Nick or whoever else, I hope they can stack some wins and go into the Grands and give us a show.
Absolutely. Fun stat real quick on Jeff Upshaw's season so far. 6 races entered, 6 wins. He has only not gotten first one time. He's gone 1-1-1 in the motos. He has lost. There has only been 1 or 2 semis, I guess, in Vet Pro, and he got 4th in that semi in Rock Hill. Every other lap has been a win across the board. Now, I just thought that was a fun stat. I was looking at the cut, some of the stats for the cut going straight to semis with those higher rider count classes, which was, a big question mark at the beginning of the season. The majority of those racers in the main, they won at least 2 motos. And that was, an indicator that, okay, cream rises. Only a couple situations where someone won a lap in the motos and didn't make it on to at least the semi or that main event. So what has been your thought? I know we've only had 1 race weekend with that in effect, but with a little time under our belt, what's your thought on that race day change?
I think it's great. I mean, that's how the pros have been doing it for a long time. And I think that, you should be rewarded if you win races throughout the day. You should be rewarded with a gate selection. I mean, I just remember being an amateur, like you winning all day, and then, the random gates spit out and you're in lane 8 and you're the South Point Nationals in Vegas, and you might as well be in gate 27. You know what I mean? It doesn't, it's life's not fair, but like, that's not fair too. So I do like the idea that you have to earn your way over. But with that being said, like if you start on the outside and in your quarter, and then you get a good quarter and you get second or third, then you can shift over towards the middle in the semi, and then you get a good semi. You can work your way into the inside if that's what you want, or you can it unlocks a bit more strategy. If you're Neat Kimmin and you want to go in lane 8, or if you're Isaac in Rock Hill, first pick gate 5. Right. Like there's different things that it unlocks a bit of a strategy instead of just a read, react, and go. Pros and cons to both. I get it. Old school guys will say that it's the worst thing ever, and it should just be, how it always used to be. Right. But just looking at it, I think there's pros, cons to both. But I think from a development standpoint, giving the amateurs as well as the amateurs the same format as the pros is the right thing to do.
Absolutely. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback from amateurs, parents, team managers of like, especially when you come to a race that just happened in Rockford where, gate 6, 7, and 8 are preferred. So, hey, I've been doing great all day. I just won my semi. I'm going to, have that choice and take 7 in the main because it's a straight shot when before you, are praying for Gate 7 for the first time in the season.
Yeah, Rockford's a great example. You get Gate 1 at Rockford, you're like, oh man, like
I'm in the grass. I'm in the announcer tower with Grindle.
It's Black Mountain in Phoenix is another one where it's got a bit of a dog leg, but I think that's part of the game. Like every other game, you have to have some or sport, you have to have some strategy. And I remember Rockford is a great example. Black Mountain too. I remember in Rockford one year, there's a year me and Corbin were going head to head. And I remember trying to like strategize what gate I was going to pick because I wanted to be one inside of Corbin. I wanted to go as far out as I could, but be one inside of Corbin, right? Because if you're even at the turn, then you just have to be inside. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, if I go 5, will he go 6 or will he go 4? Okay, if I go, like, how far in is he willing to go, right? And so like there's this whole strategy that became a part of the game as opposed to just get in and go, which I think is good. But with that being said, I think that the futures class,
yes,
they're learning that, right? So let's look at Evan Esposito or Ethan Popovich or Darren Martin. They just were over in Europe, right? And when you get to Europe, you're picking gates, and that's how it works. And I'll never forget, being at some of these world championships, World Cups, and some riders over the years were like, I've never picked a gate before. What do I do? And I'm glad that now they're going to be able to learn that at home before they go over to the international stuff.
Yeah. And, I will say, total honesty, I wanted to see more of those riders on the international side of our young riders that we've seen in the futures classes make it into more of those semis and main events in Sarons and in Papendal. But for the first international race weekends of the season, I think I'm happy with their results. Not complacent, but happy. Hunting for more definitely. But on the futures races, we've seen a lot of great action, especially in the men's ABA men's futures men's category. Ethan Popovich took over the lead in Albuquerque with his 2 wins. The first time that someone's done that in the class so far. So him, Ryder Santos, Matthew Wirtz, Chris Felker, those are the top 4. As of right now, but we've seen just some great racing, and I think Ethan is the man to beat in that class. If now this is a big if he gets his gate starts.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. So let's bring it back to the international stuff first. So I would say that I was impressed with the ladies.
Yeah,
I think Alexis and Darren, they impressed me. They rode really well. Getting in the mix. And now both of them are juniors and they're racing U23 at these World Cups, right? So they were racing up. So when they get to the World Championships, I think both of them are going to be competitive for medals at the World Championships in the junior women's class. I kind of like that they went. It was their first time. They're juniors. They were in the semi. They were in the mix, right? They were good enough that I think it gives them that self-belief that if I keep working, I can work my way into the main, right? But it wasn't easy because you also don't want them to go and then win and then just kind of get lazy and it comes too easy. Now on the men's side, I think that, no disrespect to the boys, I like them all, but they got punched in the mouth.
Yeah, they did.
They got killed. I think Evan and Sean are juniors, so they're racing U23, and there's a big difference between Evan is 16 years old, racing as 2 and 23-year-old men. Like, that's a big difference, right? So you got to give them some slack there. And for them, I think it was more about the experience and just the familiarity with that style of racing. But hopefully they're not defeated and they're not coming home thinking, oh, man, I can't do this. Hopefully they at least had something that made them feel, if I keep working, I can get into this. Now, I think Ethan is just as fast as all those riders from the bottom of the hill to the first turn. But I think what you see is in the U.S., Ethan's gait is his weak point. He's been working on it. He's been doing a ton of work on it, and it's gotten better. But his gait is his weak point. But he is head and shoulders more talented, not talented, but head and shoulders more skilled around the track than the majority of the riders he's racing in America. But when you get over to Europe, everybody's on that level. So his advantage is kind of washed. And now it exposes more his weakness from the gate to the bottom of the hill. So, I think for Ethan, he did make the main event last year in Rock Hill, so he has shown that internationally he can do it. he's got some work to do on that gate to first jump, and he knows it. Him and I talked about it. He knows it. He's working on it. But I think that's what he's got to do. And I think those other boys, they got punched in the mouth, and every athlete goes through a moment where you get punched in the mouth and you got to figure out what to do to get better. And not just the athlete, the coaches and the program. I mean, in my view, the program needs to get better, period. It needs to get better. I do want to go on a tangent because I just thought of it, and I think respect is due where it's earned.
Let's do it.
Drew Polk deserves some love. Semifinals. That is no top 16. That is hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's nothing to laugh at. It's not. That is impressive. And I know when you're in the semis, it's so frustrating because you're so close to the main. But Drew deserves some love for those results, without a doubt.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to shout out the track that Sarion's delivered. That was a tough, and that track was eating people up. And for Drew to stick it in there, make it to the semis, be battling for those spots, got caught up in a crash on that second day, I believe. But I mean, he was in there against one stacked class of riders, but then against a tough track that we normally don't see on the US side.
Yep. And I will say, I'm going to say this, and I might take a little slack for it, but I fully believe this. Drew's in a weird spot because he's so far behind on the hill that it actually makes it easier because he doesn't really get cut off. Like, you put him next to a Joris or a Cam Wood, they're so far ahead of him that he can just kind of slot back in and start thinking about his first turn moves and his passes.
Right. And
why that's a tough spot is if he gets a little better, he actually puts himself in a worse spot, right? Like, being as far back as he is good. Moving forward is bad. Moving all the way forward is the best, right? So he's in a weird spot where as he gets a little bit better, it's actually going to make it harder for him. I think Carlos Ramirez is another example of somebody who was like that. It was like is so far back off the gate that he could just immediately start making moves. But then you have those mid riders, those mid-pack first-rate riders who you'd rather go into the first turn in 7th or 8th than in 4th.
Right.
Here, you don't want to go into the first turn in 4th because you're not coming out in 4th. So I think that's going to be a tricky thing for Drew as he continues to improve and get better over the coming years is can he bridge that gap quickly and not get stuck in kind of no man's land for a little while? But no, really, really impressed by Drew. I also think it's worth throwing out, like with these ABA futures, there's only been 4 races.
Yeah.
You're going to need to do it for a few years to see the fruits, to see the level rise amongst the riders. When you have all the best riders racing each other every weekend, everybody gets better. You basically get the NAG 5 challenge every weekend. And when you do that, the riders will naturally get better. It's unreasonable to think that all of a sudden the first race was in March, come June, everybody's going to be better, right? But give it a couple of years and make it a normal part of the series, and you will see the riders continue to push and get better.
Absolutely. And I think that's really going to show in the women's class because they really haven't had that stepping stone class into the pros on the US side, especially. I think Addison Thompson and Presley Gould are perfect examples of that.
Vegas.
Vegas. Lana Burrian also in there in second in the point standings, but she
was on fire. She was on fire in Nashville.
Absolutely. So she's won 3 cruiser titles, world championship title, and now is chopping it up in the futures class. And I think her, who's maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5 years away from jumping into that pro class, I think that's huge for those riders to progress and get that style of riding, one, to prepare for their junior and U23 careers, but then making that jump into the women pro class. So I'm excited, man. I'm really excited.
I think it's good. I think it was a great idea. And I think that the riders are enjoying it when I talk to the riders. I think the only thing the riders complain about is they're like, I have so many laps I've got to do. I've got a class. I've got this. I'm tired. But I think it's been great for them. I think having them at the Grands, having a championship for it, like you're learning all of these skills, right? Like somebody like a Josh Jolly is going to go into the Grands, and he's probably never had to deal with like a season-long championship before. He won the Worlds, but that's a one-day race. You just go race. But there is a different mindset when you go into the Grands. It's like, okay, I need this position if this person needs this position, and I need to win, and I need this person to get third. You know, it's a different ball game when you have that season-long one. So you're equipping all of these riders for the future, which I think is great. And it's been sorely needed, and I'm glad to see it being addressed. But I think this back half of the year is going to be great. We got 5 weekends plus the ROC.
Yeah.
I think it's a good mix. We got some new tracks with CTAC coming in. We've had pro races in Minnesota, but have we had one at this particular track?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
Now, Minnesota does have a very strong Pro-Am series that they do. So there have been some pros on the track. But this Crow River track, we went there a couple years ago. Awesome facility. Volunteers are absolutely, some of the best in the country. So I'm excited to get pro racing on that track. Like you said, CTAC, brand new to the national series, period. So first national pro race, or it's a Gold Cup final, Gold Cup final with the pro race on top of it.
I'm just stoked that it's been so long. I can't even think of the last time they had a pro race in the Pacific Northwest. I'm stoked that riders from Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, Canada, Idaho, that maybe don't usually get to see the pros will get to come and see their favorite pros. I think that's going to be really great. You're going to inspire kids there that might not have had this opportunity. I think it's great.
And it's a completely different membership body with the Gold Cup finals. You're going to see regional racers more than national racers in SeaTac and in Tulsa. So those two Gold Cup finals with the pros on top of them, I'm really excited for, just to see how the crowd is and how the kids are to see these racers racing and doing what they love, side by side next to them. Austin, I'm really excited for also in Pflugerville. I think Tanner Sebesta does amazing work at that track. I think they just did a rebuild. So there's going to be a little new flavor for this year's Texas Nationals.
Like, I haven't seen the rebuild, but that's a good track. Like the bones of it with the 5-meter hill. It's like a 6-meter, honestly. The oversized 5-meter hill, the turns, it's long. It's got a pro section. Like, I think you're going to see some good racing there. And with that being the last round, that's, going into the last round, there's going to always be a rider or two that needs a win, right?
Absolutely.
You have to get a win. So that pressure ramps up. I think it's split right down the difference. So if you're a small hill specialist, it's not a supercross track. If you're a supercross specialist, it's not it's right in the middle. So
right.
It doesn't necessarily have an advantage to anybody. So I think that'll be good. But then at the end of the day, it still comes down to dirt hill, dirt turns, old school, Tulsa. Yeah. You're doing Moto 1 at 7 in the morning, main event at 10 at night, and you better be mentally tough, ready to go.
Absolutely. And from what I hear, Billy Allen is currently, shopping around some ideas for the Grands track, seeing what we want to do, whether it's the OG traditional M track or whether we're spicing it up this year. I know he's got a couple of different plans. If you remember early in the season on the regular amateur national series, the indoors saw a little spice up. We got some moguls in SoCal. We got the off cambers, mountain peaks in Blue Ridge. I hear he's going to toss some of those in. Don't know which ones, but he's going to try to mix it up, have new and unique features for the track as well. So
if he's listening, new and unique features, make the track a little more technical for sure, a little bit deeper, reward riders who have skills, but leave that stuff in the 70s and 80s. With the speeds we're going today and the clipped in and the technology of the bikes and everything going on, we could leave the moguls and the off cambers in the 70s. Build a big lip, dig it a little deeper, throw some extra rollers in or some combo jumps, but we can leave that stuff in the 70s if you're listening.
Duly noted. Well,
I think
man,
stuff's okay for if someone really wants to do it for a little national, but not when there is, championships on the line, NAG number ones, history books being made, and that's just in my opinion. And I know that I'm going to get all the angry DMs from the guys in the 70s who, tell me that, steel is real and carbon doesn't count.
Well, it's okay. Cruisers doesn't count.
What about time trial count?
I mean, I see you got the jersey still hanging, man. So
I got 2 of them. I mean, it counts. Like, I can still say world champion, right?
No, sorry, man. But man, gonna be an exciting end to the season. 5 races, ROC Grands. Gonna be a killer run. We got the World Championships coming up next month, as well as the final World Cup stop as well. So plenty of racing still to come, both in the U.S. and internationally. Are you headed to Copenhagen for the World Champs?
Undecided. I'm not sure yet. I'm getting married this fall, so I got that. I got some of the USA BMX races that I got to go to. I'm just trying to keep my head above water, so we'll see what's going on with that. But I will say Copenhagen's beautiful. We had the Worlds there in 2011.
Yep.
It's a great track. Location's really convenient. You can ride your bike from the hotels in the city. I've seen the rebuild of the track. It's technical. Anybody listening who's going, find some big tracks, some big jumps, and get ready. It's not an easy track, but I think it's going to be an exciting race. I think you're right in that transition on the men's class. The women's class, I think, has kind of already had it, where the Mariana and the Elise, that generation's kind of done, and you've moved to the Saya, Beth Shriver, Molly Simpson, like the next gen. But on the men's, I mean, Joris won that World Championships in 2011. I had a front row seat to it. I was right behind him. And here we are in 2025, and he's still one of the favorites. Sylvain Andre is leading World Cup points. You got those last couple of guys from that old generation holding on for dear life with Wood and Isaac and Pilard, who's been very impressive. Clarté, some of these other guys kind of stepping up and trying to crack through and start getting some big wins.
Yeah, I want to finish off with 2 points from the international rounds. One, Sylvain Andre, I mean, he can't miss a transfer and a podium to save his life. I mean, he was hunting all day. I want to say on Sunday from eights, quarters, semi, main. I mean, he was determined to get on that podium there in Poppendal. And then Ross Cullen from Great Britain. I mean, what a performance from him. I think
I've been waiting for it, man. I've been waiting for it. Because I like Ross, nice guy, and he's been fast a lot. And he's won some eights and some quarters, and it's been like, it's today the day. It's today the day. And then he finally put it all together. And I mean, he played, I don't mean this in a bad way, but he's kind of played second fiddle to Kai White for a few years, right? In Paris, they had one spot for the Olympics, and Kai got it, and Ross was the odd man out. And so for him now, he's finally been able to win a race, stand on the top of the podium, and now he's saying, I'm the man. I'm the man now. And when you win that first one, it unlocks that confidence. And so he is absolutely going to be a threat. There'll be a lot of Brits in Copenhagen that'll be rooting for him. So I think, he's going to be a factor in the years to come for sure.
Absolutely. And one of the nicest guys too, out here for Tulsa for the World Cup, and then in Nashville for the last C1 event before Olympic qualification closed. I mean, just a killer guy, as they say, a bang up guy. Just stoked for him. And I wanted to end it off with that. Yeah. What a bloke. All right, man. Well, Connor, thank you so much for joining us. Exciting season still ahead. Can't wait to see you back behind the mic in Derby City in a couple months. But until then, man, just keep being cool, man.
Yes, sir. Have a good one. And hey, I'm stoked for you on your active every day. What's cool today? What do you got going on?
So I think I'm gonna ask Molly. It's day 44, so I'm gonna ask Molly what her
your workout.
Give me a full body workout that Molly Simpson does. I'll do it the 44. So we'll see.
Time I'm in Tulsa, or if not Tulsa, we'll do it in Louisville. I'm jumping in. We'll do one together.
I love it.
All right. We'll see you later.
All right. See you, man.